Hello everyone, it's Sean. Today I'm going to show you how to go about creating an answer file, creating a WinPE boot disk, and show you how you can image a machine and then deploy that image across multiple machines. This maps to questions 4 and 5 in your midterm, so you want to pay special attention to the moments where I essentially answer your questions for you. I'll be showing you how to do the things that we're asking you to do, is what will happen. So, in order to do this, you need two things. You need a Windows installation disk, a Windows 7 installation disk, which you should all have ISOs by now of the Windows installation. If not, you can get it from DreamSpark. You can get it from the D drive on all the machines in our lab. Once you have the ISO, once you have the image of the Windows install disk, you want to make sure that it is basically inserted into the CD drive of your virtual machine. To do that, we go up to VM, the VM menu, and go to Settings, and then look in our CD/DVD drive here. Now, mine's set to auto detect, which means it'll look for a disk in the actual physical drive. We don't want that. We want it to use the ISO, the Windows ISO. So we'll click on it. We'll select Use ISO Image, and then we will browse for the image. In my case, mine is in my Documents folder. That's where I put it, under ISOs. And this is what I'm going to use, Windows 7 Professional x86. So hit open, and now you see it's in my virtual CD drive. Hit OK, and it should install. And here it is. It pops up showing me that it is in my virtual machine. So we need this disk because there is a file in here that we need to get at. I'll get to that in just a second. So we have this. The other thing we need is the Windows Automatic Installer Kit. This is something that you can download from Microsoft. It's free. This is the website. This is where you go to download it. This is the address to download the automated installation kit. So go ahead and download and install that onto your machine, onto your virtual machine. Once you've done that, once you've downloaded it and run the installer, and just very quickly, because it might be a little confusing, the installer is the Windows AIK setup. So when you download the file, you double click on it, and then click on Windows AIK setup, and this will install the software for you. So once you've done that, once you've installed the AIK software and you have your ISO in your computer, what we're going to do is we are going to take the image file that is built into the Windows installation DVD. It is found in the Sources folder. So if you open up the DVD, go to Sources, and scroll down, and what we're looking for is the install WIM file. WIM is a Windows image file. So we want to take this and we want to copy this. This is what we're going to use to create our PE disk. We're going to copy this into the images folder that we created. If you haven't created an images folder, create something. It doesn't have to be called images. It can be called midterm or whatever, just so long as you have something that you know where it is. I'm using images because it's easy for me to remember. So we'll wait for this to copy, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so there, it finally finished. So now we have, if I open up my images file, we have the install WIM file here. Set in images. We're going to be using this in just a minute. So now let's create our answer file. To create the answer file, we're going to use the AIK software that we just downloaded, and we're going to open up the Windows System Image Manager. This is where we're going to create the answer file. So click on that, open it up, and this is what it looks like. Looks like I already have an answer file here. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new one so I can show you how this works. You are not going to see anything here if you open this up for the first time. So click on New Answer File, and it will give you basically a list of components. Now, the next thing you want to do is select the image that we're going to work with to add the answer file to. So for this, we go to select Windows Image, and we're going to browse to the images folder and to the install WIM. This is the image that we're going to use. And make sure, very important here, make sure that you select which version we're going to work with. We are working with professional, so make sure you select professional and OK. So say yes to the annoying pop-ups, and it will create a catalog file, which is basically cataloging all of the stuff inside this image. It'll take a few minutes. Okay, now that it's finished cataloging, we can take a look at what they have cataloged for us. So in here, in this section, is all of the different options that we have. If I expand components, these are all the different components that we can set up and configure for our custom Windows PE boot. So let's take a look at just a couple of them. If we go to deployment and reseal. Now, if you right click on any of these components, it will tell you which area of the disk it will be added to. In this case, let's take reseal and add it to the OOBE, or out of box experience system. This is actually where you do your customization. This is where you make the decisions as to what you want the disk to do. And I'll show you just basically a couple of the options that you can use. And feel free to mess around with it and come up with your own. Like here, if we do the international core setup language, if we right click, you can only add it to Windows PE, in other words, to the basic install. So let's add that, and we'll do one more. I'm doing some of these are essentially what are done on the official Microsoft walkthrough, and I'm just grabbing them because they were some of the more obvious ones, more consistent ones. If you go to Windows Setup, and under Disk Configuration and Disk, you'll see Create and Modify Partitions. This, if we use them, let me open them up so you can see them. If we use these, let me set them to pass 1 again. These would automatically create partitions on the drive of the computer that you're installing this in. So you can have multiple partitions, creating and modifying. You can have 2 or 3 or 4 partitions and have the Windows Install CD do all of that for you instead of having to do it later yourself. It's actually very convenient. So we'll just leave it with that for now. So once we have them added to this area here, which is our answer file, once we have them here, now let's do some configuration. Let's do some actual customizing. So if I click up here on the international core, it has a bunch of options for locale. Locale is literally what language it's going to be installed in. You can actually have it automatically install in French or Spanish or whatever you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it for what is mostly what we're going to use, English. English US. EN-US is English US. So I'm going to copy this because we're going to use that for the input locale. We're going to use it for the system locale. For the UI language, the user interface language is going to be English, and the user locale. A locale is basically telling the computer what part of the world you're in. So what we're saying for input and user, that we are located in the United States, and then the system also. And then the UI language is also going to be English. Simple enough. So in here, in the setup, and I'm just making some random changes. You can make the exact same changes I make, or you can make different ones. I'm also going to set it to be English, and we'll show UI. In other words, this, if something comes up, if there is a problem on error, it will actually pop up an error. It'll ask you to do something. Now this is supposed to be an unattended installation. This is supposed to be automatic, so that should never happen. It'll only happen if there's a problem. Now some of these you don't type in. Some of them have a drop-down menu like will show, and you can see that when it'll show. If it'll always show, if it'll never show, or if it'll only show when there's an error. We're going to leave it as error. So down here at reseal, just to do a different one. For shutdown now, what this means is once the system is done installing, it will, if this is set to true, which I'm going to set it to true for fun, will force the system to shut down once you've installed Windows from the Windows PE disk. Mode OOBE, the out-of-box experience, that we're going to leave it at that, but just to show you what the other things are. The other one is audit, and this is if you want to see if it's actually going to install the way you want it to install. But don't worry about that. I'm just going to leave it like that. So anyway, every one of these things has options like this that you can go in and make changes to customize your specific installation. So I'm going to leave it like that, and you can too when you're doing the midterm. You can just set it, leave it as I'd set it, and then now we will go on to actually setting up the disk. Oh, one more thing to do that I should not assume. We're going to do two things actually. We're going to check and make sure we didn't make any mistakes, because sometimes when you're setting things up, sometimes like maybe you didn't type in the language properly, or maybe you have a bunch of things that conflict. So they have a validation tool here, so you can validate the answer file. So if you run this, it will tell you if there's any problems. Now, the one thing it did show me was that I have some components that don't have any updated settings, and that's true. The create partition and modify partition, I didn't make any changes to them. So this is not an error, this is just a warning. So that's fine. If there were an error, it would be a red X and it would say you can't do that or something is wrong. So our answer file will work properly. It will create a disk properly. So once we have that done, we can go over here and save the answer file. And I'm going to save the answer file. If you were going to use this to actually create a boot CD, a custom installation for imaging, what you would do is you would copy this answer file to an external USB. Like you put in a thumb drive and you copy it to a thumb drive. Right now I'm going to put it on the C drive for a lack of a better place to put it. So I'm going to call it auto unattend for automatic unattended installation. And so that's it. We now have an answer file, and now we get to move on to the imaging section. Okay, so now that we have our auto attend answer file, we want to set up the reference machine, or the machine that we are going to image, the machine that we have set up for copying over to all the other machines to image. We want to set that up to image, and to do that, right? And I set up Windows 7.2. I got this booted. Windows 7-2, I should say. I got this booted to get us going. What we're going to do is we're going to run a tool called sysprep. Sysprep takes this machine, strips away anything that might be personalized about it. It basically sets the machine up as if it were being installed for the very first time. So like right now we have some users on here, we have some documents and things like that. It's going to get rid of all of that. So to do that, we need to first navigate to sysprep. You used to be able to just type sysprep in here. It doesn't work anymore. You have to actually go to it. So to find sysprep, we open up our computer, go to the C drive, go to Windows, and then scroll down to System32, the System32 folder, and then scroll down again to the sysprep folder. And in here, we have a shortcut to sysprep, the tool itself. So let's run that. And what it's going to do, this is the sysprep tool, this is what you would use to get your computer, in this case, this virtual machine, Windows 7.2, get it ready to be imaged using the WinPE disk. So here we're going to set up a couple things. One, we're going to leave it as the out-of-box experience. Remember I was telling you audit mode was if you wanted to test that everything was working, but we're pretty sure everything's working. It's going to be a brand new install anyway. So we're going to keep the out-of-box experience. This is what it's going to be when we're finished. We're going to click on Generalize. That is what gets rid of all of those personal features, all the users, passwords, all that kind of stuff. It makes it as if you have just bought a new machine and turned it on for the very first time. And then here in shutdown options, we could have it reboot and automatically start installing. We could have it quit the sysprep tool, or we could have it shut down. So we're going to have it shut down. So that way we know when it's done, the computer is just going to shut down and it's going to be ready to go. Ready to basically be rebooted using Windows PE disk once we're done. So once we set this up, out-of-box experience, generalize and shutdown, we hit OK, and then it will take its time. It will clean up the entire system, and it will make it as if it were a brand new Windows installation, ready to be installed. It also, by the way, will remove drivers and this machine-specific software, because this image is supposed to be able to install on any machine anywhere. Even if you're using this for installing across all of the same machines, like maybe you have 13 Dells that are all exactly the same, you still want to degeneralize, you still want to wipe all of that, because individual machines have individual